Princes William and Harry and Kate and Meghan reunite at Windsor to honor Queen Elizabeth II. The last time the Sussexes and the Cambridges, now the Prince and Princess of Wales, were pictured together was on Commonwealth Day in 2020. Catherine, Princess of Wales, Prince William, Prince of Wales, Prince Harry, Duke of Sussex, and Meghan, Duchess of Sussex on the long walk at Windsor Castle. Princes William and Harry put their differences aside on Saturday afternoon to pay tribute to their late grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, and to greet members of the public outside Windsor Castle. The princes were accompanied by their wives, the Duchess of Cambridge, now Princess of Wales, and Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex. It was the first time in more than 2 years that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex were pictured with the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. On Friday, Prince William and his wife were given their new titles by King Charles III. They are now known as the Prince and Princess of Wales. The brothers and their wives came together at Windsor Castle to pay tribute to the Queen, who died aged 96 on Thursday. This is a moment that many have been waiting for. The brothers' relationship has been strained following Prince Harry's and Meghan's exit from royal life and move to California, and since the couple publicly criticized members of the royal family in an interview with Oprah Winfrey last year. The two couples took time to shake hands and speak with well-wishers outside Windsor Castle. They gazed at the notes and flowers left in memory of the Queen, who was the country's longest reigning monarch, and who marked 70 years on the throne earlier this year. Harry and Meghan arrived in the UK on Monday, where they attended the One Young World Summit in Manchester, then flew to Düsseldorf, Germany, on Tuesday for the Invictus Games. Their short European tour ground to a halt following the Queen's death on Thursday. At Balmoral, where the Queen died, Princess Anne, Prince Edward, and Prince Andrew greeted members of the public who were waiting outside the castle. On Saturday afternoon, the new Princess of Wales and Meghan both wore head-to-toe black as they emerged from the gates of Windsor Castle. Kate opted for a long-sleeved pencil dress paired with black tights and heels. Meghan wore a short-sleeved boat-neck dress with matching black tights and shoes. The last time the Sussexes were seen in public together with the Cambridges was on Commonwealth Day in 2020. At the time, Meghan wore an emerald green Amelia Wickstead dress, while Kate went for a deep red Catherine Walker number. The family will be reunited again at the funeral of the Queen at Westminster Abbey on September 19. Black has been the royal uniform of mourning for centuries. When Prince Albert died in 1861, Queen Victoria wore black until her death in 1901. When Queen Elizabeth's father King George VI died in 1952, she was on holiday in Kenya and immediately returned to the UK, where she changed into a black dress as soon as she landed. Since then, it is protocol for royals to travel with a black outfit. For the funeral of the Duke of Windsor in 1972, Wallis Simpson asked Hubert de Givenchy to make her a mourning outfit, and he stayed up all night to finish the job. Simpson wore a black veil with her black coat dress, while the Queen and other members of the family wore black hats. Queen Elizabeth II's death has triggered a series of changes and once-in-a-lifetime events that are set to unfurl over the next 2 weeks, all of which have been carefully planned by Buckingham Palace. The protocol for the death of a monarch is rooted in centuries of tradition, and a similar period of national mourning would have taken place following the deaths of rulers including King Henry VIII, Queen Elizabeth I, and Queen Victoria. The country has not witnessed the death of a reigning monarch since the Queen's father, King George VI, died in 1952 at the age of 56. On Friday at 6 p.m. local time, a public memorial service will take place at St. Paul's Cathedral in London. Royal gun salutes, bell ringing at churches such as Westminster Abbey, St. Paul's Cathedral and Windsor Castle will also take place on Friday in the Queen's honor. The death of the Queen, the country's longest reigning monarch who ruled for 70 years, also means that her son Charles has become king and his wife Camilla now queen consort. Prior to Camilla, King George VI's wife, Queen Elizabeth the Queen Mother, was the last queen's consort. She died in 2002. A host of royals will have a title change, including Prince William, Kate Middleton, and their children. Queen Elizabeth II's funeral is expected to take place on Monday, September 19, at Westminster Abbey, the same place where she married Prince Philip in 1947 and where she was crowned in 1953. Buckingham Palace has yet to confirm the date and time of the funeral service. Her coffin will be covered with the royal standard flag, which features 3 gold lions for England, a red lion for Scotland and a harp for Ireland. Sitting atop the flag will be the imperial state crown, which has the Cullinan IL diamond, cut from the largest diamond in the world. Once the coffin arrives at the Palace of Westminster, an orb and scepter will be laid on top. The coffin will travel on the gun carriage from Westminster Hall to Westminster Abbey. Following the funeral, it will be drawn in a walking procession to Wellington Arch, at London's Hyde Park Corner. A hearse will then take the coffin on its final journey to St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle for a committal service attended by senior members of the royal family. St. George's Chapel is where Prince Philip's funeral was held in 2021, and where the Duke and Duchess of Sussex got married in 2018. Following the death of a monarch, the newly appointed sovereign decides on the period of royal mourning. For his mother Queen Elizabeth II, King Charles III has expressed his wish for royal mourning to be observed for 7 days after the Queen's funeral, which will be confirmed by Buckingham Palace. This means the mourning period will last for at least 2 weeks. Charles, 73, was Britain's longest-serving heir to the throne, first in line since he was 3 years old. Following the death of his mother, he automatically became king according to the 17th century Bill of Rights, 1689, and the Act of Settlement, 1701. Clarence House, the townhouse near Buckingham Palace where he currently resides, confirmed Thursday that he will be known as King Charles III. He will be styled as His Majesty instead of His Royal Highness, like the Queen. He made his first televised speech as monarch on the evening of Friday, September 9, thanking the public for their condolences and pledging to serve as king with loyalty, respect, and love. In February, the Queen offered Camilla the title of Queen Consort as a gesture of support for her son's future reign. When, in the fullness of time, my son Charles becomes king, I know you will give him and his wife Camilla the same support that you have given me, and it is my sincere wish that, when the time comes, Camilla will be known as Queen Consort as she continues her own loyal service, Queen Elizabeth II said in a statement earlier this year. As the eldest son of the monarch, Prince William is now first in line to the throne. Now that his father is king, William and his wife Kate Middleton have inherited Charles's and Camilla's former titles of Duke and Duchess of Cornwall. They have already added the new title to their current Cambridge one. Late Thursday, the couple signaled this change on their social media accounts. Their bio now reads, the official Instagram account of the Duke and Duchess of Cornwall and Cambridge, based at Kensington Palace. When in Scotland, William and Kate will take on the titles of Duke and Duchess of Rothesay, per tradition, for the first in line to the throne. During his televised address on September 9, King Charles III announced that William would become Prince of Wales, another title traditionally held by the heir to the throne. Kate will become Princess of Wales, a title previously held by the late Princess Diana. The children of William and Kate, who all returned to school this week, will also see their titles change. Prince George of Cambridge, Princess Charlotte of Cambridge and Prince Louis of Cambridge are now going to become Prince George of Cornwall and Cambridge, Princess Charlotte of Cornwall and Cambridge and Prince Louis of Cornwall and Cambridge. The Queen's coins will remain in circulation in the UK and it's likely that new ones will be issued gradually after King Charles III's coronation. All coins remain valid for use. Before 1971, it was common to find multiple monarchs on currency until they were all decimated. The last redesign of the coins happened in 2015, when the Queen was 88 years old. Currently the Queen faces the left, but when the King's coin is issued, he will be facing the right as it's tradition for each new monarch to alternate. In 2018, when Charles turned 70 years old, the Royal Mint marked the occasion with a special coin. The designs on a coin will be signed off by the government and manufactured at the Royal Mint in Llantrisson, South Wales. The Queen has appeared on all notes since 1960. These will be eventually phased out with the Bank of England giving notice. Stamps, post boxes and passports. Queen Elizabeth II has appeared on all stamps since 1967. The Royal Mail will now stop producing them and start processing new ones with Charles's profile on them. New post boxes outside of Scotland will feature the King's cipher. Currently there are 115,000 with the Queen's emblem of EIIR, E for Elizabeth and R for Regina, which translates to Queen in Latin. British passports will be updated with the cover and inside reading His Majesty Elizabeth II, Elizabeth Alexandra Mary, April 21, 1926 to September 8, 2022, was Queen of the United Kingdom from February 6, 1952 until her death in 2022. Her reign of 70 years and 214 days was the longest of any British monarch and the second longest recorded of any monarch of a sovereign country. At the time of her death, Elizabeth was Queen of 14 other Commonwealth realms in addition to the UK. Elizabeth was born in Mayfair, London, as the first child of the Duke and Duchess of York, later King George VI and Queen Elizabeth. Her father acceded to the throne in 1936 upon the abdication of his brother, King Edward VIII, making Elizabeth the heir presumptive. She was educated privately at home and began to undertake public duties during the Second World War, serving in the auxiliary territorial service. In November 1947, she married Philip Mountbatten, a former Prince of Greece and Denmark, and their marriage lasted 73 years until his death in April 2021. They had 4 children together: Charles III, Anne, Princess Royal, Prince Andrew, Duke of York, and Prince Edward, Earl of Wessex. When her father died in February 1952, Elizabeth, then 25 years old, became Queen Regnant of 7 independent Commonwealth countries: the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Pakistan, and Ceylon, known today as Sri Lanka, as well as head of the Commonwealth. Elizabeth reigned as a constitutional monarch through major political changes such as the Troubles in Northern Ireland, devolution in the United Kingdom, the decolonisation of Africa, and the United Kingdom's accession to the European communities and withdrawal from the European Union. The number of her realms varied over time as territories have gained independence and some realms have become republics. Her many historic visits and meetings include state visits to China in 1986, Russia in 1994, the Republic of Ireland in 2011, and visits with 5 popes. Significant events include Elizabeth's coronation in 1953 and the celebrations of her silver, golden, diamond, and platinum jubilees in 1977, 2002, 2012, and 2022, respectively. Elizabeth was the longest-lived and longest-reigning British monarch, and the second longest verifiable reigning sovereign monarch in world history, only behind Louis XIV of France. She faced occasional Republican sentiment and media criticism of her family, particularly after the breakdowns of her children's marriages, her annus horribilis in 1992, and the death of her former daughter-in-law Diana, Princess of Wales, in 1997. However, support for the monarchy in the United Kingdom remained consistently high, as did her personal popularity. Elizabeth died on September 8, 2022 at Balmoral Castle, Aberdeenshire. She was succeeded by her eldest son, Charles. Elizabeth was born at 2:40 GMT on April 21, 1926, during the reign of her paternal grandfather, King George V. Her father, the Duke of York, later King George VI, was the second son of the king. Her mother, the Duchess of York, later Queen Elizabeth the Queen Mother, was the youngest daughter of Scottish aristocrat Claude Beausoleil, 14th Earl of Strathmore and Kinghorn, at whose London home, 17 Bruton Street, Mayfair, she was delivered by caesarean section. She was baptized by the Anglican Archbishop of York, Cosmo Gordon Lang, in the private chapel of Buckingham Palace on 29 May 4C, and named Elizabeth after her mother, Alexandra after her paternal great-grandmother, who had died 6 months earlier, and Mary after her paternal grandmother. Called Lilibet by her close family. Based on what she called herself at first, she was cherished by her grandfather, George V, whom she affectionately called Grandpa England, and her regular visits during his serious illness in 1929 were credited in the popular press and by later biographers with raising his spirits and aiding his recovery. Elizabeth's only sibling, Princess Margaret, was born in 1930. The 2 princesses were educated at home under the supervision of their mother and their governess, Marion Crawford. Lessons concentrated on history, language, literature, and music. Crawford published a biography of Elizabeth and Margaret's childhood years entitled The Little Princesses in 1950, much to the dismay of the royal family. The book describes Elizabeth's love of horses and dogs, her orderliness, and her attitude of responsibility. Others echoed such observations. Winston Churchill described Elizabeth when she was 2 as a character. She has an air of authority and reflectiveness astonishing in an infant. Her cousin Margaret Rhodes described her as a jolly little girl, but fundamentally sensible and well-behaved. During her grandfather's reign, Elizabeth was third in the line of succession to the British throne, behind her uncle Edward and her father. Although her birth generated public interest, she was not expected to become queen, as Edward was still young and likely to marry and have children of his own, who would precede Elizabeth in the line of succession. When her grandfather died in 1936 and her uncle succeeded as Edward VIII, she became second in line to the throne, after her father. Later that year, Edward abdicated, after his proposed marriage to divorced socialite Wallis Simpson provoked a constitutional crisis. Consequently, Elizabeth's father became king, taking the regnal name George VI. Since Elizabeth had no brothers, she became heir presumptive. If her parents had subsequently born a son, he would have been heir apparent and above her in the line of succession, which was determined by male preference primogeniture at the time. Elizabeth received private tuition in constitutional history from Henry Marden, vice provost of Eton College, and learned French from a succession of native-speaking governesses. A Girl Guides Company, the first Buckingham Palace company, was formed specifically so she could socialize with girls her own age. Later, she was enrolled as a Sea Ranger. In 1939, Elizabeth's parents toured Canada and the United States. As in 1927, when they had toured Australia and New Zealand, Elizabeth remained in Britain, since her father thought her too young to undertake public tours. She looked tearful as her parents departed. They corresponded regularly, and she and her parents made the first royal transatlantic telephone call on May 18. In September 1939, Britain entered the Second World War. Lord Hailsham suggested that Princesses Elizabeth and Margaret should be evacuated to Canada to avoid the frequent aerial bombings of London by the Luftwaffe. This was rejected by their mother, who declared, "The children won't go without me. I won't leave without the king." And the king, Prince William and Prince Harry have made their first public appearances since the death of the Queen, joining their wives Catherine and Meghan to greet well-wishers outside Windsor Castle. It also is the first time the two couples have been seen together since Prince Harry and Meghan's highly publicized withdrawal from royal life after a series of controversies. The appearance came shortly after Prince William released a statement pledging his support to King Charles in every way I can and hailing our extraordinary Queen. Earlier on Saturday was the first public appearance of the Queen's youngest children Princess Anne, Prince Andrew, and Prince Edward, who also thanked well-wishers outside Balmoral Castle. The couples were driven down from the castle to the castle gates at the start of the long walk, before disembarking two four-wheel drives and walking together to view tributes to the late Queen. Crowds initially cheered their appearance before a hush fell over them, while family read notes and looked at flowers left at the gates. But it was the public display of unity between the two brothers and their spouses outside Windsor Castle that will surprise many. The two couples then turned to the crowd, who in turn erupted in cheers for them, as they moved over to speak to those lined along barriers. William and Kate took to one side of the long walk, while Harry and Meghan took the other, receiving flowers and shaking hands. Prince William was heard telling someone in the crowd that the days following his grandmother's death had been surreal. Shortly before his appearance, the Prince William released a heartfelt written tribute to his grandmother, saying he was incredibly grateful to have had the Queen's wisdom and reassurance. On Thursday, the world lost an extraordinary leader, whose commitment to the country, the realms, and the Commonwealth was absolute, he said in a statement released by Kensington Palace. So much will be said in the days ahead about the meaning of her historic reign. We all thought she was invincible, he said, according to Reuters. After about 40 minutes speaking with members of the public, the two couples then left in the same car, which was driven by Prince William. A spokesman for the Prince of Wales said he had invited the Duke and Duchess of Sussex to join him and Princess of Wales as they viewed the flowers, and spoke to well-wishers. I, however, have lost a grandmother, and while I will grieve her loss, I also feel incredibly grateful. I have had the benefit of the Queen's wisdom and reassurance into my 5th decade. The 40-year-old heir to the throne said the Queen was by my side at my happiest moments, and she was by my side during the saddest days of my life. I knew this day would come, but it will be some time before the reality of life without Granny will truly feel